The governor's latest budget recommendation continues her efforts to expand the scope of state government and expand her own power while doing so. I was quite surprised to learn this week that it doesn't matter what the state constitution has to say about it. Our Constitution says the State Board of Education shall serve as the general planning and coordinating body for all public education. But now we have the governor's proposal to fund her new state department, the Michigan Department of Lifelong Education, Advancement, and Potential. The bureaucratic shorthand for this is MiLEAP. Yesterday, during an Appropriations Committee hearing, I asked the MiLEAP representatives, where does MiLEAP have the constitutional authority to act as the general planning and coordinating body for public education? They responded, quote, MiLEAP has a clear charge from the governor to continue to support learning before our children enroll in kindergarten and after they graduate from high school, end quote. Well, that clears everything up. We should all be rest assured that our Constitution is subject to the whims and longings of our almighty governor. Here's the reality. The Constitution says what it says, and based on the language, I can't help but conclude significant portions of the governor's new department are unconstitutional. The governor proposes to fund her new department largely by shifting funds from other departments. This includes funding from the Michigan Department of Education. It is an attempt to take away power from this separately elected State Board of Education and give that power to the governor and her hand-picked bureaucrats. The Michigan Constitution clearly states that leadership and general supervision over all public education is vested in the State Board of Education, with an exception based on constitutional powers granted to public universities themselves. This Board of Education is elected by the people of Michigan. The board subsequently appoints the state superintendent of public instruction, who is the principal executive officer of the Department of Education. The governor does not have direct control over the Board of Education or the superintendent. With the creation of MiLEAP, she has attempted to create a parallel entity that fulfills many of the same functions. While there are some portions of MiLEAP that are constitutional, such as the child care components, there are some areas that must be left to the State Board of Ed, MDE, and the state superintendent. This includes certain pre-K through higher education functions that MiLEAP attempts to direct. I rise today to make no value judgments on the worthiness or the effectiveness of the governor's MiLEAP office. I only speak to the constitutionality of her proposal in the executive budget recommendation. One can talk until they're blue in the face about the merits of MiLEAP, but it's wasted breath if the efforts are prohibited under the state constitution. I also realize one might have legitimate concerns with the structure or operation with the Michigan Department of Education. That being said, it is not constitutional to attempt to remedy the situation by creating a parallel entity under the governor's direction. MiLEAP would be constitutional if it were housed in the Michigan Department of Education, but that is not the proposal. The actual proposal circumvents the autonomy of the Department of Education. Our state has been down a similar path before in regard to higher education. In the 1970s, a governor proposed the Commission on Higher Education and wanted the legislature to fund it. The Attorney General at the time, Frank Kelly, issued an opinion, and it said, quote, "It is beyond the power of the legislature or the governor to establish a commission on higher education to exercise such powers even on a temporary basis," end quote. To summarize, I am not saying that MiLEAP as a whole is unconstitutional, but certain areas that involve early education through higher education are unconstitutional. When we are crafting our budget going forward, it would be wise to ensure programs that are housed in the correct departments, or we will find ourselves on the losing end of a legal challenge. This would be time-consuming, costly, and ultimately disruptive to our mission of educating children. Thank you, Mr. President.